pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select.
This is just a weird pick to draft a quarterback who at best I think is a developmental project.
I'm not saying Jalen Hurts should not have been a second-round pick. The Eagles shouldn't have selected him in the second round.
How does Nick Sirianni look after his first news conference? Like a puppet.
Kansas City is no longer the best roster in that division. Sorry, they're not. Chargers have massively upgraded.
Well, let's see him without Tyreek Hill. Well, now we're going to get to see it.
You can doubt the Chiefs. You can dislike the Chiefs. You can disrespect the Chiefs. You're going to have to deal with the Chiefs.
Braves need to know the Eagles train to go.
Burrowhead, get out of here.
Hey, I got some wise words for that Cincinnati mayor. Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni.
Obviously, we didn't end the season the way we wanted to. We can learn from that. And at the end of the day, we have to come into this next year with a blank slate and trying to find a way to get to the Super Bowl again.
It's been a lot. I'm not going to make this about me, man. This city, this is a special city. They deserve everything that's going on.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here, as always, by the man who just bet his life savings on Nick Bolton, Super Bowl MVP. Kyle, how are you doing?
Got some chills, man. That was a great video. Great trailer.
Thank you. Yes.
Don't doubt my man, Nick Bolton. That's all I got to say. Big game coming.
Yeah, big game Nick.
That's definitely him. Yeah, that's who they're referring to.
Yeah, Kyle, I am pumped up for this. I think this is going to be, I'm very excited for this podcast. Very excited for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one. I really believe it. I think this should be fun. I mean, it's not very often I think we get the two best teams in the Super Bowl for a season, and I think from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, I think you could have argued San Francisco and Cincinnati had better ceilings. But I think from the beginning to the end of the season, the overall body of work, the records speak for themselves. These two teams have been fantastic, and this should be a fantastic game.
Yeah, the right two teams are here. That's just the way you feel about it. This is when we think about the NFL season, how it all went. These are the two teams that should have been here.
I 100% agree. And both of them have overcome a lot of different things. Philadelphia, obviously, their quarterback was injured at the end of the season. Now, they're already kind of in the playoffs, but there was a very real chance they could have lost that one seed down to the end of the season. Kansas City traded their best receiver before the season. They said, you know what? They've invested $15 million basically total in their receiving core outside of Travis Kelce. So, I mean, what they've been able to do this season, and their offenses statistically got better without Tyreek Hill and been able to do this. It's been an impressive year for both teams.
Yeah, well, why don't we actually even start there before we get into the actual game preview of it all, which we will be breaking down every single little detail, again, leaving no stone unturned here on the Sideline podcast of all the full podcast, just previewing the one game. But I kind of do want to start with just how these teams got there. And you think about the Chiefs. Here's the list of players they added just in the past 2 years. Not in just past 2 years. They drafted, in 2021, they drafted Nick Bolton, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith, along with trading for Orlando Brown Jr. and signing Joe Thuney. Then in 2022, they signed Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Juju Smith-Schuster, Justin Reed, and Carlos Dunlap, along with drafting. This is just in this most recent draft. Trent McDuffie, George Karlaftis, Joshua Williams, Sky Moore, Brian Cook, Jalen Watson, and Isaiah Pacheco. That's 7 players who have had a significant impact in this season. They drafted in one draft class, also traded for Kadarius Toney. In 2 years, there's, 15, 17 guys that they've added that have had significant impacts in the Super Bowl run. It's insane.
Yeah, and that's not even including guys L'Jarius Sneed, who didn't have a lot of impact on that 2020 season. That was his rookie year. He was pretty good. He had some interceptions. That was really it. He's kind of become their number one guy at corner too. I mean, they've overhauled this roster and they've learned I think they've learned really well how to try and build a team around Mahomes and his contract. And we've talked about it, that the quarterback on the elite quarterback on the rookie contract is one of the biggest advantages a sports team can have. And we've seen teams really struggle to surround themselves with elite talent when they pay that quarterback money. And I think the Chiefs have just done an incredible job of being able to surround that quarterback with talent, because they've identified talent, first of all, in their draft, and they drafted really well. And then they've hit on some free agents, some veteran free agents too. And all of these guys have kind of worked out, and they paid their key players, whether it's a Chris Jones or a Travis Kelce. Frank Clark, not so much, but at the same time, he comes up with big plays into the playoffs, even if it's a bad contract.
And listen, you can afford one, right? Like you're not gonna hit on everyone, but especially when you have the Mahomes thing, you can make it work. And again, it's interesting because I think about, so we both I think everyone didn't love the Tyreek Hill trade when it happened. I remember one of the things I said in sort of a devil's advocate way, which wasn't what I thought, but just kind of like playing it out of like, couldn't you argue this is what the Patriots did? Of once a player is about to get paid, you trade them and use those assets to try and build a more complete roster around your star quarterback. And at the time, even though I said it, I didn't really believe it. Now I kind of believe it. Now you see the value of it. And again, it also helps when you can draft as well as they've drafted, getting, again, 7 contributors in a single draft.
Well, I think the amazing thing about the Tyreek Hill trade and what's come out of it is like the moves they made haven't necessarily come to fruition yet. So like Sky Moore was drafted as like the replacement, right? And we're going to try and get some production out of Sky Moore. I still think Sky Moore is a talented player, and I think he has a future, and he's going to be good in this team. He hadn't really had that much of an impact this season. They trade for Kadarius Toney right around the trade deadline as someone they want to take a chance on and see if he can make an impact for this receiving core too. Toney, I mean, he's had a couple splash plays, but it's kind of been the same Kadarius Toney where he gets out, he gets injured a lot, he's out of the lineup a lot. He hasn't had quite that impact. It's been guys like taking a chance on Marquez Valdez-Scantling on a flyer, McCole Hardman stepping up in spots, and then also the change of the offense that we've talked about over and over again, where they know what people are throwing at them. They don't want Mahomes to beat them with a 70-yard pass, and he is taking those chances. He is taking those checkdowns. He's using guys like Jerick McKinnon, Isaiah Pacheco, and obviously there's, of course, that Travis Kelce guy who's pretty good too.
Right. Well, right. And I think kind of what we talked about is, I don't know if this team is like, if this team, I don't know, what's a bad team this year? The Texans. Does this team beat the Texans by as many points as they beat this year as they do last year? I don't think so. And they actually, weirdly, the Texans played them tough this year. But just for an hypothetical, if that's the case, I do think that you're better with Tyreek Hill. But I think what this team can do is they can beat good teams more consistently than last year's team can.
Yeah. And they played a lot of close games this year. I mean, they really did. And there was even games like, it kind of bit them in the butt in that Colts game where they lost that one earlier in the season. But, they played the Chargers close. They played the Bucks close. They played the Raiders close. The first time, not the second time. They had a couple blowouts in there. They had a couple of games that looked like old KC. But for the most part, they played a lot of close games, and they learned how to kind of grind out these results. And I think we definitely saw that in the last game against Cincinnati too.
Yeah, I don't know if the Bucs game was that close, but I agree with what you said in the main
scoreboard.
Point. Yeah. And we have a chat saying like, hey, don't forget about world ender Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But that's the interesting thing too, is like this has not been a perfect run for Brett Veach, the GM, since he became the GM. Like the Frank Clark trade is clearly a miss. The Clyde Edwards-Helaire thing has been a miss. But again, these past 2 years, he just completely knocked it out of the park.
Yeah. And you know what? You can miss a few things if you're going to hit things like a 7th round running back too.
Right.
You may miss on the 1st round running back. If you hit on the 7th round running back, it works out. And if you may miss on the the big trade edge rusher, but if you hit on your 1st round defensive end, which they kind of have, that's another thing that's going to work out.
Well, yeah, and even in that 2020 draft, they drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the 1st round. Okay, that one was a bust. But then they also got Willie Gay, L'Jarius Sneed, and Mike Dana in that draft. So it's like that's a great draft. It's just, it wasn't the 1st round pick that you got the talent from.
Yeah. So, not everyone bats 1,000. But what you really want to hit around 500. That's really the goal. And then you got to hit on the quarterback. And of course, the biggest reason why they're back in this spot is because they have a quarterback who's about to win his second MVP. He's 27 years old. He's probably the best in the world right now. And he's got the whole world at his feet. It's Patrick Mahomes. And that's the big reason why this team is successful, and they're going to be successful for the next decade.
Yeah. Speaking of hitting on your draft picks, let's talk about the Eagles as well, how they got here, what they did well. Kyle, guess how many players are left over from the 2017 team?
I was just thinking about this. I know for sure 3. No, 4. Sorry. Because you got Jason Kelsey, the starting center, who's maybe the best center in football. You got Lane Johnson, who's gutting out an injury right now at right tackle. You got Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox, all 4 guys on the line of scrimmage, all 4 guys back.
Yes. Also, Isaac Semello, the guard, is he was there in 2017, and then Jake Elliott, the kicker. So 6 total players were there in 2017. And again, it's interesting where you talk about the moves that Howie Roseman has made to basically for a guy who basically his first move as official GM once he got handed it was having a hand in hiring Chip Kelly, only for then Chip Kelly to replace him at GM to then trade their starting quarterback and then get fired and have Howie Roseman go back to GM. It was a weird start for Howie Roseman, but he's done a great job since then. He got rid of. I think people forget he got a first-round pick for trading Sam Bradford. Did you remember that, Kyle?
It's vaguely it's vaguely in the back of my mind. I didn't remember
this
that much.
Gotten the first-round pick for Sam Bradford and Carson Wentz.
Yeah, that's incredible work. Not only that, but also just the wherewithal to draft a quarterback in that spot where, I got to be honest, I don't really know if they thought at the time when they drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round that he was going to be this guy. I think they were thinking, let's just try and get a backup quarterback and see where it goes. Because the year before, I think there is some revisionist history on this. 2018, Carson Wentz was excellent. He had 3,000 yards, 21 touchdowns, 7 picks, almost 70% completion percentage. 2019, Carson Wentz was still really good. 64% completion percentage, 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He struggles that year. He gets hurt. Jalen Hurts comes in, and that's why he invests in the quarterback position. They got a backup in the second round, and it worked out.
Well, yeah. It was the question was is Wentz ever going to be the MVP candidate he was again? Which the answer was no. But yeah, you're right. It wasn't like he was just a complete bust either. I remember Howie Roseman was asked, "Why did you draft Jalen Hurts?" And he said, "Well, Carson Wentz has injury issues, and we want to make sure we have a good backup quarterback." Like that's again, maybe he's just saying the right thing, but that's what he said. And listen, we talk about the value of a good quarterback, of a star quarterback. Jalen Hurts has been a star, and they're not here if they don't make that draft selection.
Yeah. He had a little bit of an injury this season, but still played in 15 games, 3,700 yards, 67% completion percentage, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That's to go along with 760 yards on the ground and 13 rushing touchdowns, which is unbelievable. I mean, he's had a fantastic year, and I mean, he really kind of just embodies this offense a little and what their identity is.
Yeah. Another key move that he made was the Darius Slay trade. In hindsight, Lions really might have screwed that one up, getting rid of Darius Slay for a 3rd and a 5th. Darius Slay, he can't do well in the Matt Patricia defense. Clearly, he's a bust.
Yeah. Anyone who struggles in Matt Patricia defense, you might as well just buy low on guys who struggle with Matt Patricia as their coach. Matt Jones comeback season incoming.
Right.
That was bad. But the interesting thing was this Philadelphia secondary was bad for so many years. And it felt like they never had the right pieces in place. And it was like a jigsaw puzzle where it was like you're missing your corner pieces. And where are our corner pieces? Literally corners. And then all of a sudden, it's like this year, they put it all together. It's like, it was always like, okay, one guy's nice. They're missing a slot guy. They're missing an outside guy. And then all of a sudden, it's like a great slot guy in Avonte Maddox, 2 good outside guys in James Brodberry and Darius Slay, and then good safeties in C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Reed Blankenship. All of a sudden, this is the best secondary in the league, just like that.
Yeah. And again, we talk about the value of drafting well. Again, let me throw some drafts at you. 2018, they got Dallas Goedert in the 2nd round, Avonte Maddox in the 4th, Josh Sweat also in the 4th, and Jordan Mailata in the 7th. Then the next year in 2019, they only got Miles Sanders really of note, but they also added TJ Edwards as an undrafted free agent. 2020, they got Hurts. 2021, they drafted Devonta Smith, Landon Dickerson, Kenneth Gainwell, and Milton Williams. 3 starters and a contributor in Gainwell for them. And then in 2022, they got Jordan Davis. But what they also did was that was kind of the year they added elsewhere. They signed guys like Bradbury, like you said, also Kaiser White, Hassan Reddick. They traded for, as you mentioned, CJ Gardner-Johnson and then AJ Brown. And just really, that's kind of the way they did it. They drafted well, got the good team. And then once they said, okay, we're good, let's sign some free agents. Let's try to be great. And they succeeded.
Yeah. And they pulled the opposite of Kansas City, right? Like the biggest name of all that, of course, is AJ Brown in the year he's had. He's been fantastic this season. He's been everything this team needed. And, it's an interesting contrast because, you looked at Kansas City, where it was a team that had, they just paid their elite quarterback. They had an elite tight end. They had elite options at their disposal. So they were okay with letting Tyreek Hill go and retooling. The Eagles had a rookie quarterback. They had the money to make a move like this, and they decided to go big. And, if you just look back at that team last season and what they did in the playoffs and going in that Tampa Bay game, and Jalen Hurts looked a little overwhelmed. He looked overwhelmed and outmatched in that game. They go and get him a guy in AJ Brown. A lot of teams would have, how many conversations did we have about Tua in the offseason? Is Tua a guy? Is Tua a starting quarterback? Philadelphia said, this is our guy. Jalen Hurts is our guy. They put everything around him at his disposal to be successful. And one of those has been A.J. Brown, who's basically been the best man receiver in the NFL.
Yeah. They've been absolutely fantastic. And Kyle, that's how these teams got here. Let's talk about the game itself. The Super Bowl. First, we got to talk about the point situation, Kyle, as I have a 5-point lead. Like golf, you want the lowest score here. There is real chance for a three-peat here. I will be making my pick at the end of this podcast of who I have winning the Super Bowl. And if I pick it right, then I win for the 3rd year in a row. If I pick it wrong, then you finally get a victory.
Yeah, I think we're going to disagree on this pick. I have an inkling we're going to disagree on this pick, so I'm curious to see where you go. I feel like I'm going to get the side I want anyway, so we'll see how this plays out.
Okay, interesting. Because again, you made the decision last week or last pick show to basically put it in my hands. You basically punted in the conference championship.
Yeah, I limited my points, and it was whatever. I got the game wrong anyway, so it worked out. I didn't want to get down big, so I'm okay here. I'm okay in this spot, and just looking for the right side of this thing. 50-50 chance.
Sure. I'm interested in seeing where you're going because I have no idea who you're going to pick, but I know who I'm going to pick, although it took me basically until yesterday to finally figure it out. The Eagles are 1.5-point favored in this one. And should we start with Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, sure. We can start with Patrick Mahomes. He's good.
Yeah, he's a good quarterback. Guy can play well. And I have to say, Kyle, I think that the supporting cast of the Chiefs is getting underrated in this. I'm not saying I definitely think the supporting cast for the Eagles is better, and by supporting cast I mean team outside the quarterback. But I don't know. I feel like people are acting like this is an A+ supporting cast for the Eagles and like a C- supporting cast for the Chiefs. I think it's like an A- supporting cast for the Chiefs. There's a lot of good players here.
They still got good pass catchers. They still do stuff, some things really well. And there's no such thing as a C- supporting cast that has Travis Kelce. It's just
right.
not true. And not to mention the offensive line. And, we make fun of Andrew Wiley all the time, but there's still 4 really good offensive linemen on that group. So yeah, I don't think it's that big of a mismatch in that spot. I do think the Eagles are better at skill position, but I do think that there's a big factor to this Chiefs offense where I think they're going to have success in this game, and that's Andy Reid and this play calling. I think they've been masterful with how they've handled the play calling this season, and I think that this offense is going to click in this game because of what they're doing.
Yeah. The thing, one of the questions about the Chiefs is we still don't know the health of all of these receivers, right? There still is question marks there, but they just have just a plethora of guys who can come in and play. It's not necessarily the number of guys, but it's not necessarily the names on the back of the jerseys, but PFF had their receiving core graded higher than the Eagles this season, and a big part of it is because when they have 4 receivers out there, they have 4 receivers who can really play and can really get open consistently and can do their role well. I think people view wide receiver as one position. The Chiefs do not. The Chiefs realize that it's different positions, even if it's all counts as wide receiver, and they use guys in different ways. And that's how they've been able to be so consistently successful. And they still do have an elite option. It's just at tight end instead of receiver.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? Even with some of the injury issues, McCole Hardman's obviously not going to play. Like, I think the beauty of this Kansas City offense and what they do, like, does it matter who's actually outside at receiver? Like, I think Juju's kind of important for them. I think he's the one guy who is like, yeah, we could really use him out on the field for like a 6-yard gain every now and then. But like, the difference between Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Kadarius Toney, McCole Hardman, and Sky Moore, does that feel like a lot to you?
No, I even think Justin Watson, like, he's made some plays when he's been out there.
Yeah. They just have guys who can kind of run the routes and get open for Mahomes, and that's kind of what they need.
Yeah. The issue, though, is will you be able to get open against this Eagles secondary, which we all talked about. Darius Slay, James Bradbury doesn't get too much better than that. Obviously, really good safeties as well. Gardner Johnson, Marcus Epps, and Reed Blankenship. Vontae Maddox can play the slot very effectively as well. And one thing that's fascinating to me about this, here's a concern I would have if I'm the Eagles. I think the concern you have if you're the Chiefs is obvious, right? Talent-wise, a lot of big names in that secondary. The one thing I thought of, though, is James Bradbury, fantastic corner, does everything but one thing very well. The one thing he doesn't quite have is speed. That's kind of the one knock on him. Could there be a scenario where you put a Marquez Valdez-Scantling on him and have him run by and maybe get a big play that way?
I think Kansas City has to be smart with their shots. I think they're going to try and draw up some big plays and, draw up some stuff downfield, but I don't think they're going to do it a lot in this game, honestly. And it's twofold reason, because number one, yes, Bradbury does struggle with speed, but typically those safeties are over the top all the time. This is a team that plays very deep coverage. And it's, they don't really disguise it either. Everyone knows they're playing deep coverage. That's what the Eagles do. So I think it's, that they're going to have to be smart with it. And the other part of this is that the Eagles defensive line makes it really tough to draw big plays because they're getting to the quarterback really fast. They have a lot of edge rushers that they can sub in and out. But I do think that there's areas for this Kansas City offense to expose this Eagles defense. Not really expose, but capitalize on this Eagles defense because of their scheme. I got some stats for you. Do you want me to throw the stats at you?
Okay. Yeah. Love some good stats.
All right. So from Warren Sharp, let's go through this. Eagles pass defense is ranked very well. I think it's number one pass defense EPA wise, or in the top 5. Yeah.
It's number one.
On passes thrown 1 to 9 air yards, the Philadelphia Eagles rank 17th in EPA per attempt, 17th in success rate, 24th in first down rate, 26th in third down conversion rate. And so basically they are the best passing team when teams try and throw the ball air yards 10 yards or more downfield. When teams throw it short on them, they're giving that stuff up because that's just what their scheme does. And I think what Kansas City has done excellently this season, and especially, a lot of it is also due to personnel. They're perfectly cool with Jerick McKinnon getting 10 catches for 57 yards and 5 first downs in the game. They're cool with Travis Kelce with 14 catches in this game. If they have to go to Travis Kelce 14 times, they're going to be perfectly content if the Eagles don't adjust to take those yards. And part of the reason they're okay with that is because Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league on third down. Nobody stops him on third down. He's at a 58% conversion rate on third down. And it's just really difficult to stop this Kansas City team when it's 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, and Patrick Mahomes is back there.
Kyle, great stuff by you. And did you mention Travis Kelce and all of that too? It's like, oh yeah, you also have that guy to worry about on top of it.
Yeah. So they just have so many, the way they're able to scheme up options. I do think they have kind of they built their entire offense this offseason to beat a defense like Philadelphia's. And I think that's going to be the goal, because the book on Philadelphia right now is they don't love the short passing game. They don't love when a quarterback can throw the ball quickly, which is kind of what Kansas City did last week because Patrick Mahomes was on a bad ankle. And I think Kansas City is just going to copy and paste that playbook into this week.
Kansas City spent all offseason trying to beat the 2022 Philadelphia Eagles. Like, that's what they basically did. Everything they did is to beat a team like this. Now, they might not be able to do it, but that's what they tried to do.
Yeah. So that's their goal, and they might succeed at it because of that. But yeah, I mean, there are things that I still think Philadelphia is going to do really well. Like I said, Kansas City is going to try and do some stuff downfield. I don't think they're just going to be cool with
Yeah.
always throwing the 5-yard out or doing stuff like that, the 5-yard check down. But at the same time, like, it's always a risk to throw downfield on this Philadelphia defense. Darius Slay, James Bradbury, CJ Gardner-Johnson, these are three of the best ball hawks in the league. And can they capitalize on turnovers? Because Mahomes doesn't have a lot of turnover-worthy plays. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. Can they capitalize and force him into some mistakes in this game is the question.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah, and it's interesting because Mahomes historically has been a high turnover-worthy play percentage guy, but doesn't actually turn the ball over too much. This year, his turnover-worthy play percentage is way down on top of it. So, I mean, these are two quarterbacks who protect the football very well. But yeah, one thing that's fascinating about this as well is the running game with the Chiefs. I'm just interested in this. I think the Chiefs will be successful when they run the ball. I don't know how many times they're going to run the ball. That's just the weird thing about this. I think that, schematically, you were on this before I heard anyone else on this about the Eagles' run defense, not as good as you would realize. You'd think, okay, all these great defensive linemen, all these great front seven players, they're going to be great defensively, but great at stopping the run. Hasn't really been the case for the Chiefs. They do run the ball pretty well. Like they're a good running team. They don't choose to do it very often, but when they, and maybe that obviously that plays a role, right? I mean, you talk about, scheme is a huge part of it. Teams play off against the Chiefs, so their running game is easier that way. The Eagles play off, so therefore their running defense isn't quite as good, but I have no reason to believe that the Chiefs won't play off in this game. So could the Chiefs try and use the run to set up the pass a little in this one?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they should try at least too. I think, there's a couple interesting stats too with it, with the offense and the run game. Like Isaiah Pacheco's not a good yards after contact guy, statistically, but at the same time, like the middle of this interior offensive line for Kansas City is so good at carving out space. Yards after contact really doesn't matter. The Philadelphia Eagles have gotten a lot better. I wouldn't say a lot better. They've gotten better in their run defense with Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. But at the same time, like, so they I think they ended up with the #1 run defense in the playoffs so far.
Okay,
But
interesting.
I don't really know what to do with those numbers because of the San Francisco game where they're playing a team who doesn't have a quarterback. They're playing a team whose quarterback literally couldn't throw the ball. So I don't really know what to do with those numbers. But I still don't think it's a great run defense. I think it's a better run defense. But yeah, I do think Pacheco is going to have some spots here that he could get big plays.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting, and I also think that this is a situation, and it's definitely on both. Again, we're talking about the Chiefs and their the Chiefs offense first, then we're going to get the Eagles offense. But in both ways, it feels like if a team gets a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter, it could really very easily be over. It feels like this is the kind of thing where neither team's going to want to fall behind too big because it'll be really hard to come back late in it.
Yeah, especially if the Eagles jump out to a lead, it feels like the Eagles are going to win this game, right? Because they just have this ability to suck the life out of the football game. We've talked about this all the time. So Kansas City has to be efficient. They have to be smart, and they have to score early because Philadelphia historically has been a very good first half team because they just basically sit on the football and run for 1 billion first downs in the second half of games. So they got to be efficient early, and they got to hit their spots.
Yeah, it should be very fascinating. But, we're talking about all these positives with the Chiefs. Oh, the Chiefs should be able to run the ball effectively. Look at these guys. Chiefs should be able to throw the ball relatively effectively. Kyle, 4 good offensive linemen does not a good offensive line make, right? You need 5 guys. And Orlando Brown Jr., Creed Humphrey, Joe Thuney, Trey Smith, those are 4 great offensive linemen. No one's going to argue that. But you got Andrew Wiley as the fifth at the right tackle, and that's where the concern comes in. I think there's actually some, maybe some concerns of Orlando Brown Jr., which I've touched on a little bit, and we can get into more detail in a second about that. But when you got Josh Sweat, Hassan Reddick, Brandon Graham, and I'll throw Robert Quinn in there, why not? Give him some love. Sure. That's a concern for the Chiefs that maybe, again, sure, you can chip him, right? But what are you going to do? Are you going to have Noah Gray in the game playing the block every play? Like, I don't know if you want to do that. Are you going to have, is Isaiah Pacheco going to be pass blocking? That's not what he does well. So it's like, even if you have to double team him and you can get away with whoever it is who's on on Wiley, even if you just double team him the whole time, that's still taking a player out of the play to do that. So that's a big mismatch, and that's maybe the biggest mismatch of this side of the ball, in fact.
Yeah. The Andrew Wiley of it all is a big problem for Kansas City. And as you touched on, I don't think it's anything to scoff at either. The Orlando Brown Jr., you mentioned it, is not very good against speed. I thought Cincinnati had a lot of success because Trey Hendrickson gives them a ton of issues. They basically
Osai was doing it too.
Yeah. They put those guys on him. They blitz him right off edge, and then Orlando Brown struggles to catch up with them. Hassan Reddick is a guy with a lot of speed off the edge too, and the tough thing about this Philadelphia defense in this defensive line is you can't double team guys. You can't scheme things offensive line wise against guys because you can't leave guys on an island against any one of these players. Whether it's Josh Sweat, whether it's Hassan Reddick, whether it's Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, all of these guys are going to win their battles if you put them in a mismatch. So you have to find a way to win one-on-one battles basically and beat them straight up, which is extremely difficult to do for an entire game.
Yeah, because Gabe in the chat saying it's going to be McKinnon chipping, Mahomes designed rollout, and tight end chip. Certainly, there's things you can do to get around this stuff, right? You're not just screwed, and you don't just have to leave them on one-on-one, but there's just issues, and you're not going to do it every play. There's going to be mistakes that happen, and you're not limiting your playbook if you are doing that every play. So it's just it's an advantage for Philadelphia.
Yeah, it is an advantage, and all it takes is one or two wins for Philadelphia to flip the script on this game too. Reddick is not only just a sack guy, I think we touched on it on Sunday. He's a forced fumbles guy when he gets sacked. And all it takes is, all it's going to take is one big play from this defensive line to flip the momentum of the game.
Yeah, and Mahomes loves a good 12-step drop back, right? He's a big fan of the running very far behind his tackles, which could make things even more difficult.
Yeah, well, that was one thing. They altered that a little bit last week or last game, right? Because of his ankle. And while we don't know exactly what percentage he's going to be playing at in the Super Bowl, I imagine it's a lot closer to 100%. So knowing that their offensive tackle still had a lot of issues in that game. That was the thing. Like their offensive tackles definitely had issues, and Mahomes struggled with movement. If he's still not 100% on his mobility, and these offensive tackles we think are still going to struggle, how much of that stuff is still implemented in their playbook?
Yeah, it's definitely that's one of the great unknowns is the Mahomes health of it all. And again, we're all saying, okay, he'll probably be okay, he'll probably play well, but I'm assuming he's not 100%. And Kyle, what if on the first play of the game, Hassan Reddick beats Orlando Brown Jr. or Andrew Wiley, gets over to Mahomes and hits him and runs into Mahomes' foot, and now Mahomes is all of a sudden back to what he was in Jacksonville. Like that's totally a reasonable thing to say. What am I trying to say? It has a possibility of happening, and it's if you're a Chiefs fan, that has to scare the hell out of you, the idea of that happening.
Yeah, not to mention the Eagles have had the most luck against quarterbacks basically this entire season.
Right.
If anything, we should bet on Chad Henne playing this game because that's what's happening. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. You just got to get the Eagles fans a little riled up. But
sure, doesn't take much of Eagles fans. I love the Eagles fans. Doesn't take much for them.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it is a very real possibility, especially if that thing's not 100%. It's very difficult to play on a high ankle sprain. Never mind with just 3 weeks of rest.
Yeah, but again, it's Patrick Mahomes. He'll probably be fine.
That's what we're thinking. I hope so for the sake of a good game.
Yeah, how much of a bump? Kyle, well, I don't know. If Patrick Mahomes somehow gets taken out of this game, what are I feel like the Chiefs? Okay, instantly it's like Eagles like minus. What's the line there in that situation? Is it like Eagles like -9 maybe?
-8, -9, yeah, probably. I think he's worth at least a touchdown.
Yeah, but a touch, but that would still be like okay, there's a game.
Yeah, maybe
it's worth a watch. Okay, maybe I don't know. I think greater than 0% chance the Chiefs win. At least keep it close.
Okay, greater than 0. That's fair.
Okay, all right.
Greater than 10, maybe not.
Okay, well, we came to glad we could come to a conclusion here. Kyle, another weird thing to talk about. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is available for this game. I don't know what we're going to see out of him. I don't know if we'll see anything out of him, but that's just another interesting wrinkle that I have my eye
on. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not taking a lot out of that, to be honest. I don't think he's going to be a part of this game plan at all.
No,
I think it's Pacheco and McKinnon's backfield. I think that's really all it is.
I mean, it's definitely Pacheco. Pacheco is, and McKinnon's probably the guy who's going to come in and, and pass blocks. You're probably right. But yeah, I mean, Pacheco, the run game has gotten significantly better once Pacheco started being the starting back.
Yeah, he's electric. He is a good running back. I think he's going to be a big part of this team going forward. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Ronald Jones on the field before we see Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
That might be the case. The weirdest, didn't they have Ronald Jones in like a 3rd and 1 last game or something like that? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I don't know. All I know is one of these one of these 3 tight ends that isn't Travis Kelce is going to catch a touchdown. And we're all going to lose our minds or something like that. Everyone's going to have Kelce first touchdown bets. And one of these other 3 guys is going to catch a touchdown.
Oh, Noah Gray is going to drive people crazy when they see a big guy catch a touchdown and they realize it's not Kelce.
Yeah, because the thing is so annoying with Gray is he's this big, dorky looking white guy. So we all just assume it's Kelce and then it's not Kelce. It's so annoying.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Fantasy owners must be so frustrated with Noah Gray.
I would imagine so.
What are Noah Gray's stats on the year? I want to look this up.
Let's see. I can pull it up right now. He is 28 catches, 299 yards, 1 touchdown.
Okay, so that touchdown, but fantasy owners were pissed.
Yeah, I trade him right now for Jonnu Smith, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, but no, again, the Chiefs, they find ways to get these guys open. You also have Andy Reid scheming this stuff up too. The interesting thing about Andy Reid, should we start I don't know. Let's go there. Why don't we? With Andy Reid, he has been to now 10 conference finals or later, right? Been to conference championship 10 times in his career. He has 1 ring to show for it. I think if you win a ring here, then you're not a playoff choker. You have 2 rings, whatever. If you lose this one, though, 10 conference championship appearances and only 1 ring to show for it, that's starting to look, you get credit for getting to the conference championship. He's great at that. But could you start to talk about him as kind of a big game choker?
I mean, we already talked about Andy Reid as a big game choker.
Well, we talked about it before he won the ring, but I feel like those conversations died once it happened. But is it time to bring it back, Kyle?
Yeah, maybe. I think it probably would have to come under consideration. I was almost in this whole narrative thing too of Kansas City's been here before, their coaching staff has been here before. They know what they're doing, they're comfortable in the situation, they understand what it's like to be in a Super Bowl, all that stuff. And I'm like, well, that coach is Andy Reid. I don't know if I can really go into that.
Sure. Yeah. Just hope he doesn't have to make any clock management decisions late in the game.
Yeah. Just inexplicably waste a challenge flag that for some reason the refs missed the call.
Yeah. I don't know. There's some interesting stuff there. But again, incredible at X's and O's. That stuff he's still in that positive, clearly, obviously.
Yeah. One of the best play callers ever, without a doubt.
Yeah, one thing we didn't even talk about with the Eagles as well is, I talked about the edge rushers. A lot of good interior defensive linemen as well. Javon Hargrave, Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, Fletcher Cox can still play. Again, they just have so many different guys.
They rotate in so many of these guys. Joseph and Sue have been huge in the run game.
Yeah.
All of these guys. I mean, this team is legitimately 10 deep on their defensive line alone, and that's even with Derek Barnett missing the season.
Right.
That's crazy that they have that guy coming back. Robert Quinn, not so much, but I mean, they have a bunch of other guys.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's been absolutely incredible. Poor Robert Quinn. Every now and then we just get some of these guys that we just make fun of every single podcast. Robert Quinn has totally become that guy.
It's okay. He'll be fine.
What a great situation for Robert Quinn. He's clearly washed up. All of a sudden, he gets traded to the best team in the NFC after being on literally the worst team in football, and now he gets to play in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so I don't feel bad for him now. There we go.
Yeah, so he can deal with some jokes on a podcast he's never going to listen to.
Yeah, so he'll be fine. He'll catch his checks. He'll win the Super Bowl potentially, and he doesn't have to worry about us.
Kyle, have you already read the script for the Super Bowl saying he's going to win?
Yeah, I'm already on it. Arian Foster sent it to me. So
Okay, that was nice of him. There is another quarterback playing in this Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts is, and
yeah.
one thing about Jalen Hurts as well is everyone's talking about the health of Mahomes. Jalen Hurts, I think we can have the conversation about him as well. He is coming off of an injury, and I think it's fair to say has not looked as good coming off of the injury as he was prior to the injury. Is there any concerns about his health?
There should be. He's struggled at times against some of the top defenses I think this year, and he hasn't looked as good since he's come back from his injury. I think it's fair to say he hasn't thrown the ball as well. I did not think he was good in that San Francisco game. They didn't need him to be that good. They blew him out. They scored 31 points, but I did not think he was that good in the game, just straight up.
I didn't think he was. I don't think he's been bad since coming back from the injury. I would say he hasn't looked like himself though.
Yeah, that's fair. It looks a little just off, I guess I would say. Some of these throws look a little, I don't know, just missed throws that he didn't miss earlier in the season.
Yeah, and again, everyone talks about the nice thing though, I guess I would say is, well, you got AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert to throw to, so it should be at least okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got plenty of skill position guys to go against, and this is where I think the Eagles should thrive. I mean, they got 3 pretty good running backs that they cycle in and out. They got Jalen Hurts who can also run the ball, and they got 3 pass catchers who are probably in the upper tier to elite category. And I even kind of like Quez Watkins, honestly. Yeah. So they got a lot of guys they can cycle in and out to come up with some big plays.
Yeah, here's what the Eagles do well on offense is every single position.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even their right tackle who's playing with a torn groin or whatever, still really good with a torn groin.
Yeah. No, it's incredible. I mean, let's actually start with, we kind of touched on all of it. Let's start with the offensive line. To me, that is the headline of this is one of the all-time offensive lines, really. I mean, Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson, Landon Dickerson, Isaac Seumalo, and Jason Kelce. I mean, these are Pro Bowl caliber players, at least at every single position.
Yeah, definitely at least, if not all pro guys. And I mean, it starts with, the thing, if you want to watch like great offensive line play and creative offensive line play, just watch Eagles football games. Like the way they use guys is so interesting. I mean, Jason Kelce, we talked about it a little bit after their last game. I mean, they pull, like, people don't really ever pull their centers in run plays. They pull Jason Kelce all the time. And he's like a fullback because he's so small, but he just crushes people. And he's incredible in that spot. And they can get away with pulling their center all the time because they got these 2 tanks at often left and right guard who just maul guys over. I mean, it's an incredible thing they do with this offensive line and how they built it.
Yeah. Not to mention, Jordan Mailata is, one of the best physical specimens just on the planet. Like, just like in general, like he's absurd. So, I mean, again, absolutely ridiculous offensive line. And what's not fair is they also have a mobile quarterback. Like that should be illegal. That you should not be able to have a quarterback who can move with it, because when you already have those 5 offensive linemen, you don't get to then have your quarterback run and have a halfback also blocking. That's not allowed.
Yeah. And it's why it's made this team so difficult to beat this season. They've lost 1 game for a reason when Jalen Hurts plays, because I mean, we talk about it all the time. I said it over and over again. This is probably the best version of the read option offense installed in the NFL ever. I know Lamar Jackson won an MVP with similar concepts.
I think that's a hot take. Yeah, I think higher than Lamar is a bit of a hot take.
But it's just like this team it's not even about scoring points or gaining yards. It's just that you cannot get the ball away from these guys. Like, it's just incredible the way they can control clock, control games. And it just seems like no matter what, they're going to get the lead. And when they get the lead, they're going to sit on the ball and you're never going to get it back because they're always getting a first down. And with Nick Sirianni as their coach, what he's done really well is anytime it's 3rd and 4th and 1, they're converting because they're always going for it on 4th down with them. And it's because Jalen Hurts is so good in those 1-yard situations.
Yeah. Listen, again, whether or not they're better than the 2019 Ravens or not is a conversation for another day, perhaps. But they're incredible at what they do. You're absolutely right, and this is the kind of team where they're basically built to have the lead in the 4th quarter. Like if they get the 4th, they're like, I don't know, like a python, right? Once they get the grip on you, you're not getting out.
Yeah. And they got good players that can also, make things happen too. Whether it's, Kenneth Gainwell had a moment in these playoffs against the Giants. Miles Sanders was very good against the 49ers. Or all of these receivers can step up and make a play too. So, no matter what they need, they got someone who can go and make the plays for them. And that's the big thing.
Yeah. Kyle, there's guys I really like on this Chiefs defensive line. Chris Jones obviously is a star. I think Michael Dana is really one of the underrated defensive linemen. You have other Frank Clark, Carlos Dunlap, you have Karlaftis, Saunders, Nadi, plenty of players on this Chiefs defensive line who I like. I don't see them getting pressure consistently in this game. I just can't see that happen. Maybe on a specific play or two. Maybe if Hurts holds on, if they can get good coverage and Hurts holds on to the ball for too long, they can get pressure. But consistent pressure against these 5 guys, I don't see it happening.
It's really hard. And also, their tight ends block. They don't, it's not necessarily just the 5 guys on the line of scrimmage. They got guys in the backfield and a tight end who can also block and help out that way too. So it's incredibly difficult to get to Hurts anyways, regardless. And he's so good at moving around and buying time because he is that mobile. He's one of those elite mobility guys. So it's incredibly difficult to get pressure on the quarterback and bring him down against this team. And I agree. I think that they're stars, and I think Chris Jones, I wouldn't be shocked if Chris Jones has 3 sacks in this game and it's still a bad Chiefs defensive line day because it's they get 3 sacks, but it's on 4 pressures.
Right. Yeah. That feels like that's actually something that could happen. Because the one thing you have to say about Hurts though is that I believe he has one of the worst pressure to sack ratios in the NFL. When you pressure him, it can disrupt him. The issue is it's hard to pressure him.
Yeah. The biggest weakness I think in Hurts' game, in my opinion, is against zone defense at times because he holds on to the ball forever against zone defenses and he's trying to make a big play. So you can't fault it that much, but he takes some hits because of that. And I think one of the things that Kansas City has done the second half of this season, they've dropped their safeties deep. Steve Spagnuolo has been one of the most aggressive defensive coordinators in the NFL for 16 years, 15 years, however long it's been. And he realizes the limitations on this defense and when he can go for it and when he cannot go for it. Justin Reed and Juan Thornhill typically sit a lot more downfield than you typically see Spagnuolo defenses. And, if they're going to sit in that deep zone defense and Hurts holds the ball, Chris Jones is eventually going to get him.
Yeah. I don't know why, but this comment made me laugh. Kelsey not blocking is a disgrace. I can't stand tight ends who won't block. I just like the idea of someone watching the TV and getting angry at Kelsey not being able to block. The 3 times a game he blocks.
Yeah. They got other tight ends who can block.
Yeah, they're all right. Kelsey can block all right. He's not a great blocker, but he's fine.
They just don't have him do it.
Because why would you?
He's not a tight end. That's the problem.
Right, yeah, exactly. He just built like a tight end. No, I'll be honest. I missed a lot of what you said because I was laughing at that comment. Very unprofessional by me.
No, you're
talking about Chris Jones.
Deep safeties, zone defense. Jalen Hurts holds the ball too long. He's going to get hit.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely something that can happen. And again, you have these receivers who can play. And, one thing that's interesting, actually, last thing I want to say about this too is I think they pick up blitzes pretty well on top of it. I think that they're okay, even if, because, Chiefs will blitz. That's kind of I don't know why Steve Spagnuolo has the get pressure with 4 mindset thing. It comes from the narrative in the Super Bowl when they beat the undefeated Patriots, even though they blitzed a lot in that game. But for some reason, that's what the narrative was. He blitzes, his blitz percentage is around mediocre, but they definitely, when they feel like they can get they change it up depending on the situation. But I just don't think they'll blitz and get a ton of pressure in this one either.
Yeah, I mean, they do have some incredible athletes at linebackers that can make plays, and I think they're some of their guys in the secondary they use also blitz very well. But at the same time, this Eagles offensive line is just a different breed, man. It really is. It's different than dealing with anything else in football.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, very fascinating stuff all around. Here's something I want to say though. Everyone's talking about, Chiefs secondary. I don't know. This Chiefs secondary is pretty good. I think. It's weird because it's given up yards through the air. There's no denying that. But I feel like they've graded very well. PFF's a big fan of them, and they have players who can play. Right, L'Jarius Sneed is a good corner and should be able to, especially if he has safety help with going up against AJ Brown. Like, I think he's, again, no one can shut down AJ Brown, I don't think, but he should be able to be all right. And he is playing in this game. It's been announced that Snead will play. I think that's a big deal. Trent McDuffie has been a very good slot corner for them. Jalen Watson and Joshua Williams have both been, kind of revelations for, draft picks that I don't think anyone really had was on their radar. They've both been good. And then safeties, Justin Reed, Juan Thornhill, Brian Cook. Those are 3 good safeties. This is a team that's not as easy to throw on as people think they are.
No. And the big thing they've done is since who was the white safety that everyone laughed at last year?
Daniel Sorensen.
Yeah. I mean, the big thing is since they got him out of the lineup, they just don't give up as many big plays anymore. That was the problem. I think the narratives are still from the old Chiefs defense because they gave up tremendous amount of big plays in their secondary because they were getting burned on stuff like that. Ever since they took Sorensen out of their lineup and off their team, it's been a lot better. It's been a lot better because he's not giving up those big plays. Like you said, they have those safeties over the top. And yeah, I mean, when you look at it, how important is L'Jarius Sneed in this game and going to be in this game? AJ Brown's a tremendous one-on-one wide receiver. They're not going to leave him a lot of one-on-one coverages, I think, but because there's so many other, we just talked about how many other skill position guys are on Philadelphia. There are going to be at times where he's going to be left on an island sort of thing, and L'Jarius, AJ Brown he's tough to deal with because he's 6'1", 226 and can run. L'Jarius Sneed is also 6'1", 192. He matches up physically incredibly well with AJ Brown and has the talent to kind of win sometimes. Like you said, no one's going to full on stop AJ Brown, but this is the kind of corner that's kind of built to deal with him.
Yeah, another interesting thing about the Chiefs is, drop back EPA, 16th in the league, right? Kind of like mediocre. When you take out garbage time out of account, they jump up the 9th best in the league in drop back EPA defensively. And like you said, I think, great stuff with the AJ Brown thing. Snead should be able to do a decent job. But the flip side is like, okay, I do think Devonta Smith then can have a big day. I think he can be someone who can come in, and as long as he plays like Devonta Smith, he might actually be the key guy to watch, not AJ Brown here.
Yeah, and I like what we've seen from Trent McDuffie this season. Even Jalen Watson as a late round pick has been a solid player, but that's a huge spot to be put in. That's a huge spot to be put in the Super Bowl to ask to win against a guy like Devonta Smith, chase him around the field. It's not going to be an easy task, and I think Smith's a better player than either of those guys.
Yeah, and listen, I think it's a mismatch. I think the Eagles have the mismatch. I think the Eagles have the advantage when it comes to the matchup. I'm just saying, I think some people are acting like this is a trash secondary. It really isn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and, they got – the other thing, too, is, we talked about Goddard. Goddard's a very good tight end, by the way, and, the Kansas City does have some guys in the linebacker spots that also can cover too. So they got guys who I think can cover. Mm-hmm. It's just, can they cover everything against Philadelphia? I think might be too tough.
Well, yeah, because basically, again, we talk about scheme. A lot of what the Chiefs try to do, right, is funnel everything to the middle, force you to throw over the middle, which, the Eagles are sometimes at their best when they're throwing outside the numbers, and the Chiefs are at their worst defensively when they're getting thrown to outside the numbers. If the Eagles can find ways to scheme up a lot of those down the field passes outside the numbers, I think they win this game. But, again, Steve Spagnuolo, very good at winning X's and O's battles, and does a lot of times you come away from that game like, man, the Chiefs defense really out-schemed the opposing offense, and we'll see if that happens here.
Yeah, especially in big games. I think they're going to have a plan for this. And it still might not work because there's too much talent in Philadelphia's offense. But I definitely think they come into this with a plan. And then, circling back to Hurts, if he throws some of those downfield throws like he had in San Francisco, I could see Philadelphia's offense struggling because I do think there's opportunities for them to have big plays in this game. He has to hit those throws. He's going to have 5 or 6 really big throws in this game.
Yeah. Or they run the ball just all game, right? That's the other aspect. They run the ball like 70% of the time.
I mean, that's very possible too. They could end up with 250 rushing yards.
Right. Well, yeah, and also if they do decide to blitz Hurts, that could be a way that he could scramble outside the pocket and make stuff happen with his legs.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I feel like there's a lot of opportunities for Philadelphia to attack this Kansas City defense. And it's going to be an interesting chess match, I think, between, Hurts and this offensive coaching staff for Philadelphia and Spagnuolo in this defense.
Yeah. Here's another interesting thing about just the Eagles in general. I think it's fair to say this is a team that is not battle tested. This is a team that had a relatively easy schedule. I think it was ranked like 21st or 22nd in terms of difficulty, but also, they haven't had to necessarily play a team like the Chiefs all season. They've, even in both playoff games, they ended up kind of getting lucky with how it broke out, and they earned a 1 seed. That was part of why it was able to be, easy for them. But still, this is a team that they're going to get punched in the mouth in this game. They're going to, this is going to be a close game, we all assume. They're going to get frustrated at times, and how well they handle that could be the difference in if they win or lose this game.
Yep. Listen, they had, by EPA metrics, they had the second easiest schedule of quarterbacks this season.
Interesting.
That is a lot different than facing Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
So, yes, guess what? If you win the Super Bowl, if you make it this far, no one gives a shit about your strength of schedule. It does not matter.
Right.
But at the same time, it's a huge different test between facing, some of the guys that they face and then facing Patrick Mahomes. It's a huge test.
Yeah, it's I feel like it's final boss mode in both scenarios, right? Playing the new evil empire into Kansas City Chiefs for the Eagles, and then for the Chiefs, it's like playing the defense that you swore to destroy in this previous offseason.
Yeah, so there is a ton of interesting matchups. I think we touched on everything offense and defense. Is there anything else you want to add about these guys?
Well, we could talk some special teams for a second if you wanted to.
Tommy Townsend. Huge part of this game. He's an absolute tank. The guy's a monster at the punting game. And you know what? If Philadelphia wants to run the ball all the time, that's where Townsend's going to come into play. You got to make sure Philadelphia is having 20 play drives. They have to go all the way down the field and score.
Sure.
And if Townsend's able to pin them back over and over and over again, it's going to be very hard to run the ball all the way down the field all the time and score a lot of points that way. So Townsend has a huge advantage over Philadelphia's punter, who kicked the wire the other last game. So I don't know.
Well, for one thing, I mean, Philadelphia's punter is they've had a weird situation where Aaron Sipos, I think is how you pronounce his name, Sipos. I don't know. It's Siposs. He got hurt. So then they had Brett Kern come in, and Brett Kern was not very good. Tommy Townsend, great net yards per punt of 45.6. I mean, this is, that's for people who don't know punting stats. That's very good. Aaron Sipos had a respectable 39.5 net yards per punt. And then Brett Kern comes in a 36.6. Believes those Sipos will play in the Super Bowl is what he's saying. I believe that's what's happening. But I don't know. It's a bit of a concern, right? In a game where the last thing you want is for something to go poorly on a special teams play. If a punter who isn't fully healthy, like what if he shanks one here?
Yeah, he's playing. Is that what they're saying?
I believe that's what I read online. It was a few days ago. It's possible it's changed.
I would be shocked if he plays. I don't know. Like
either way, it's not a great situation.
He hasn't kicked the ball since December 4th.
It says, yes, 5 days ago, Eagles punter Aaron Sipos says he's ready to go for Super Bowl 57.
That seems wild. That seems like it, that's something we're going to have to watch every time. How is this guy going to handle? He hasn't kicked the ball since December 4th. I don't know. That seems like it's a recipe for disaster. Anyway, my big thing was Tommy Townsend, I think, is going to have an impact on this game. Because if he's able to flip this field position battle in Kansas City's favor, I do think that's a big advantage for KC in this one, because I don't trust either of the Eagles punters right now.
Right. One thing I would say is I think Britton Convoy, the returner for the Eagles, I would put him ahead of, his average yards per return is 9.3. Both Tony and Sky Moore, because again, we don't know which one's going to play, but both of them have the same average yards per return in 6.1. So you got a bit of an advantage in the returning situation.
Yeah, a little bit. But I feel like with both of these return games, it's more about just don't turn the ball over.
Right.
Yeah. That's all you want. I'm not expecting either of these guys. These aren't flashy special teams groups. So yeah, I think it's a just don't turn the ball over. That's all you want. Make sure your quarterback can do great things.
Yeah, and if it's late in the game, hey, maybe don't be afraid to put a hand on someone's back. Do what you got to do. Get a big return.
Block in the back, do whatever you can. Yeah, no, that's definitely true. We've seen it work. You know, and then Bucker and Jake Elliott are good. That's basically it.
Well, Butker's been interesting this year, right? His kicking percentage is down. He's 75% on the year. And he's weirdly never been that great at point afters. I didn't realize this until I looked it up. His point after, like, he's 92.7, so that's below average. Like, that's you'd think he'd be very good at that. The one thing is he's 3 for 7 on over 50. He's still been 88% under 50, which is still a bit on the low side, but not that bad. But I don't know. He's had a bad year by his standards.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like every time they need him to make one, he makes it. I don't know.
Sure.
It's just something that he's been around for so long. Like, if you look at over the last 2 playoffs, he is basically 9 for 10 on field goals. And the only one he missed was 50 plus yards. And he is trying to do math here in my head, 17 for 18 on extra point attempts. So he's good when it matters most.
Sure. Yes, that's fair. But who do you trust? In game on the line, need a 50-yard field goal, down by a point. Jake Elliott or Harrison Butker? Who are you putting? Who are you putting the ball on the? I don't know. Who are you giving the ball
to? Give me Elliott. Elliott's pretty money.
Yeah. And hey, he had a big field goal that I'm sure broke your heart. And Eagles Patriots, that to put him up 8 would have given the Patriots good field position had he missed it.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, sorry. All right, I'm sorry. I apologize. We won't have to talk about, man. Poor you. All this 2017. I just realized all season I've been like, oh, this reminds me of 2017, forgetting that they beat your team in the Super Bowl this whole time.
Yeah, that Matt Patricia's the worst person in my life. That's just basically what it is. He's single-handedly take my team like 4 times. I'm sick of that man.
That's probably pretty good though. If the worst person in your life is a coach of a football team.
Yeah, sure. He could still be launched in the sun. That's all.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Fair enough. I could have made a joke there, but not gonna go there. But let's okay. I think we covered this game, Kyle. Is it time for picks?
It is time for picks. So the ball is in your court. It is your pick. You have the least amount of points. Who are you going with to win Super Bowl 57?
Super Bowl 57. Everyone's wondering, can I pull off the three-peat? I've been getting emails from former presidents saying like, good luck to you on your ability to potentially pull this off. Kyle, as always, I do my what points per drive do I expect each team to do, when I try to not pay attention to what I did when I do one side of the ball and then go on the other side of the ball. I predicted the Chiefs would score 26 points in 11 drives. Then, without looking at what my score was, a little bit later, I predicted the Eagles to get 2.4 points per drive, which puts them at 26 points in 11 drives. I have a tie, which I have never had in the history of doing this. I've been doing this for the same way for 3 years. I've never had this happen. So fitting it happens in a Super Bowl. But with the tie, so I have it going to overtime. I can't go against Mahomes. Give me the Chiefs 29-26 in overtime. I got to go against I'll let everyone else bet against Mahomes. I'm going with Mahomes. I'm seeing how this works. I feel more comfortable going with the guy. I could see this going either way. I really could. I think it's a great game, but I don't know. Sometimes the simple take is the right one. Give me the MVP.
Yeah, I was with that one. I was on Kansas City side too. I don't know. We just did all of the breakdown. We did a lot of breakdown. There's some really good nuggets in there, matchups, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we were great. We nailed it. Yeah, it was great job,
we're awesome. Give us a thumbs up. Gosh, yeah. Man, come on now. Mm-hmm. I just look at this like, the narrative is simply like, okay, how many times Mahomes has been here before. The Chiefs have been here before. More than, there's a few guys on the Eagles still from that last team. Not much. This team has been here before. And I just trust Mahomes in the big spot over Jalen Hurts. And I think it's that simple for me.
Yeah. We got some, mixed reactions to what we say. I have a good pick. We have a boo, thumbs down. We also have not so easy being a Patriots fan now. Ha, 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 ha. So some reviews all over the place.
Yeah, that guy's getting blocked.
Do you have blocking power? I should give you blocking power.
No, I don't have blocking power. That's probably a good thing.
Yeah, I think so. I think we would have no fans left if you had blocking power.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think this is going to be really close. I think both of these teams are fantastic. I just give the edge to Patrick Mahomes, who's the best quarterback in the league right now.
Yeah, and here's the take I have too. That's completely irrational, and everyone's gonna make fun of me for it. Don't this Eagles team kind of feel like a Super Bowl losing team, right? Like they're great across the board, they're very fantastic, but like I don't know, this feels like a team I could see losing in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. It doesn't the narrative just feel like, oh, Mahomes is the greatest. Oh my gosh, all that's going to come out of this. And then also, well, of course, this Eagles team lost in the Super Bowl. They didn't play anybody. That's going to be the narrative coming out of this, regardless that they won 15 games or whatever.
Right. Regardless of the fact that Jalen Hurts has literally lost one game this year.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a ridiculous narrative, but I could see it as a narrative.
Yeah. Also, Desert Fox says unsubscribed. So okay, listen, can't please everybody. All right, it's our prediction. Listen, it's just a prediction. Who cares?
Yeah. Feel free to come back Sunday night at midnight and tell us that we're wrong. Looking forward to it. Oh, did I lose Jackson? Is Jackson's internet gone or my internet gone? What happened? People in the chat, can you hear me? Huh. Well, this would be a fitting way to end this show. I guess the Eagles fans have cut the wiring on. I guess the Eagles fans have definitely cut the wiring on Jackson's feed. So we'll give them a couple minutes here, see if we get it back.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Jackson? Oh man, his internet just died. So, yeah, we'll give him a second. Oh, he's back. There we go. So now, yeah, what a time for that.
At the end, yeah. Well, hey, at least get it out of the way here. I don't want any internet issues come Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah. So,
David
hopefully
says
there's no
Kyle
issues.
is the star anyway. Who needs Jackson? That's fair.
I had no idea what to say. I couldn't tell if it was me buffering or you. So at least we're here now.
I like all the Jackson got by an Eagles fan. Yeah, a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. They came after you. Those Philly fans are crazy. You saw them climbing the building or whatever it was the other day?
Yeah. That was what's going on here?
These people are lunatics. Nobody do anything dumb.
I love Eagles fans. I'm totally pro Philadelphia fans. And I'm not just saying that because I'm worried for my safety.
Yeah, I mean, sure, you can be pro Philly fans. Just don't be stupid. Don't climb a building.
Kyle, I also have to say, I was thinking about it. Yeah, look out for your safety, please. I have to think about it as well. Kyle, Mahomes has lost 3 times now in the playoffs. Credit to me, I have correctly predicted every time he had lost. So one of them was before we were doing the podcast, but I was still doing my YouTube show. So could, for the first time ever, me think Mahomes wins and he ends up losing.
Yeah, you also predicted him to lose last week. So
well, yeah, I predicted him to lose a good amount of times. That I predicted him to lose a lot. I don't know why.
This time you're not betting against him though. You can't do it again.
No, can't do it again. Yeah, I don't know. Well, okay, if a team has a history of success at beating a guy, I'll take that team.
Yeah, fair enough. No, I get you.
Mm-hmm. But no, again, it's the weirdest thing where it's like I think the Chiefs have like a 60% chance to win, all right, or like a 55% chance to win. That doesn't mean they're going to win.
Yeah, and really, you have like a 52% chance of winning.
Right. Yeah. I asked on the channel. I made a poll saying who's winning the Super Bowl. What do you think the poll said?
I would say Eagles probably had a higher percentage.
What would you guess the percentage is?
Eagles 56, 55.
Oh, well, you're almost on. Yeah, Eagles 58, right around there.
Oh, that was close. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they say Eagles, but it's a relatively close. Also, 7.8 thousand people voted on it. I guess people love voting on polls. I got to do more polls, I guess.
Yeah, boost your numbers, man.
I suppose so. Yeah, I don't know. People love polls.
I guess so. So what do you know?
Yeah. Kyle, it should be an awesome Super Bowl. What are your plans for Super Bowl Sunday? You're just going to watch the game?
Yeah, I got to buy some food. I got sick of, doing the whole takeout stuff, just having to wait for all that. So I'm going to go buy probably some wings and burgers, and got a few people here, and then that'll be that. half the crew here is only interested in the halftime show.
Gotcha.
But they'll talk through the game. I'll get annoyed. That's kind of how it goes.
Yeah, Kyle, you have to give us the halftime show report because I'm not going to be paying attention during it.
Yeah, I mean, Rihanna's gorgeous, so I'll watch.
Sure. All right, Kyle. Yeah. Should that be the title of our final podcast?
Rihanna's gorgeous.
Yeah, I think so. I think that works.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe she'll see it.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I believe Rihanna is actually a big fan of the On the Sideline podcast.
Could you imagine if she's locked in on our picks week after week? Oh,
I think. Well, do you think she's a big Team Kyle woman? I would assume.
I would hope so. I'm Team Rihanna. So
okay. Well, there we go. We'll see how all of that goes. Yeah. Should be fun. Next time we talk, there will be no more football left
until August.
Well, yeah. I mean, not forever. I hope.
Yeah.
Guess you never know.
Still got USFL, man.
That's true. So no more football left until August.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yes, Kyle. What'd you think of LeBron passing the all-time points record last night?
That was actually a cooler sports moment than I thought it was going to be. Like the game was interesting, despite OKC kind of just the Lakers were playing all-star game level defense, and like OKC was torching them, but. Like, I kind of expected it just be like, okay, he's going to take a ton of shots. This isn't going to be very fun to watch. But no, it was an incredibly watchable game, and it was fun to see it happen and watching everybody, like, go crazy every time he had a shot. I thought it was pretty fun. I mean, it speaks to, whether or not you believe he's the greatest of all time or not. I think that's besides the point. He could be first, he could be second, he could be third. You could be like Skip Bayless and have him 10th, whatever you want.
Sure.
The amazing thing is that this guy had the most expectations in NBA history by far. All this hype we're seeing for Victor Wembanyama this offseason, it's that quintupled for LeBron James in 2003, where there wasn't social media even. And he still managed to exceed every expectation we had. That's an incredible thing.
Yeah, no, it was cool. I have to say, though, the Thunder, so LeBron is, 2 points away from breaking the record. The crowd's going crazy, and the Thunder say, "Okay, time out. Let's calm the crowd. What are we? Come on, let the moment play out. What are we doing here?"
It was so funny. So they called the timeout, and it was then he hits it with like 10 seconds left, and then they stopped the whole game at 10 seconds left in the
for
third
so
quarter.
long. Oh my god, there were so many different things.
We could have just done the third quarter and then celebrated after the third. We could have got the last possession, and then
right.
And then I don't know. The weirdest thing about the game was that none of the Lakers teammates, like Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis, were like the only two people who didn't want to be in the building that day. And
interesting.
Then Russell Westbrook. Well, so apparently Russell Westbrook was getting into a fight with his coach at halftime. And then there's a video of Anthony Davis when he hit the shot that broke the record. Everybody on the Lakers bench is up, ready to cheer. And he's just sitting there. He doesn't react at all to him making the shot.
Okay.
And then Russell Westbrook gets traded like an hour ago. So there's that.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of chaos going on with this. Yeah, I don't know. It was fun though. I mean, again, the amount of time they spent in the middle of the game to I was watching it, and okay, hits the shot, very cool. And then they said, "Stop it for a second." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, we'll stop it for a second." And then they start playing this video package on the jumbotron. I'm like, "All right, that seems like a bit much, but okay, it's basketball. Basketball's a soap opera, right? Okay, let them have their moment." And then Adam Silver comes out and starts giving a speech. And then Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has to give a basketball to LeBron James. And then you have to have this photo shoot. And then LeBron gives a speech of his own. They really they made a meal of it.
Yeah. Well, they did something kind of similar for Kareem, but I just felt like and they said that they were going to stop the game. I didn't really know what that meant and how long it was going to be. I just felt like they could have waited till the end of the quarter. If it was between the third and the fourth, I'd be like, all right, cool. It's an extended break. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think usually the way that stuff works is like I don't know. I was at the game when Mike Evans broke the Buccaneers all-time touchdown record, which is obviously nowhere near as big of an accomplishment. But they just at a commercial they set it on the jumbotron. I think that's typically customary.
Yeah, because didn't Brady do the passing yards thing this past year or whatever it was, or touchdowns the year before?
Yeah, I think that might have been the year before.
So it wasn't that big a deal. But
I don't think they
was,
even like stopped the game for that.
To be fair, that's been broken a few times now. This was a 40-year record or whatever it was. That was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. As David says in the chat, they should have had Rihanna perform.
She's probably ready. She's always ready to perform. Rihanna, I hope you're listening.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, we need to calm you down. That is our show. Thank you to everybody for watching. If you like listening to podcasts, anywhere you get your podcast, search On the Sideline Podcast. You can then listen to the podcast. Make sure you subscribe there, rate us, all that good stuff. Or don't. Keep watching here, whatever you want to do. Kyle, let them know where they can find us on Twitter before we head out.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Grondin. And make sure to follow the account page that's at On the Sideline JK. That is at On the Sideline JK.
Yeah. Kyle, did you ever give a final score for who? I know you had the Chiefs winning.
Oh, I had Chiefs. I had 33-28.
Okay, so you're expecting a high scoring game.
A little bit, yeah. I think both teams can move the ball.
Yeah, no, should be an awesome Super Bowl. Very much looking forward to it. Again, thank you to everybody. We do appreciate it. We'll be live midnight Eastern talking about the Super Bowl. So definitely be on the lookout there. And I'll be posting tons of content throughout the Super Bowl. So if you're, bored at a not great Super Bowl party, check out my YouTube channel. Maybe you can watch some videos during it and definitely after it. Again, thank you to everybody. We appreciate it. And until next time, see you later, alligator.
Peace.